I'm going to call this meeting of the Wyndham Northeast Unified Elementary School District to order. I have on the screen, we have the agenda. So the first item here is adjustments to the agenda. I am actually looking for some thoughts about number 4 reports. As I was just saying to Chris, the purpose of this meeting is to get our budget done tonight. It really isn't to talk about other issues, but people may want to talk about other issues. So do people feel that they would like to hear from Liz and Helen tonight, or would we like to put that to rest for the moment? Any comments, anyone?
Jack, this is Cheryl. I think I'm fine with our waiving other reports tonight. I think the main purpose tonight is the budget.
All right. Counting to 10, otherwise, go ahead. Anybody else?
I'm fine with foregoing the reports. I don't think there's been a whole lot going on since our last meeting.
Well, then let us, then I'm going to remove number 4. As I do in these meetings, always, just because they are recorded on Fact TV, is I'm going to ask for a quick roll call. Chris Pratt, why don't you say hi?
Good evening, everybody.
Chris is our superintendent, for those that don't know. Flora Pagan, you want to say hello and tell people what you do? Flora, are you being shy?
Yeah.
Here we
I'm
are.
sorry. No, I was trying to connect my camera. Flora Pagan, I'm the business manager.
All right. Lynn, you want to say hello?
Hi, I'm Lynn Morgan. I'm a representative from Athens.
Cheryl?
Cheryl Charles, I live in Westminster, serving on the school board.
And Jessa?
Jessa West Clark from Grafton.
All right. Now, we have on the line at the moment Helen Richards Peel, who is a principal from Grafton, and Liz Hardy, our principal from Westminster. Ladies, if you wish to participate in the budget discussion, you absolutely can, or want to participate in the withdrawal issue, fine. But otherwise, I think you get the night off.
Thanks, Jack.
Jack,
Yeah.
This is Cheryl. I actually think both principals are needed for the budget discussion.
Well, okay. I tried, guys.
Thanks, Jack, for trying.
Gave it my best shot. Gave it my best shot. All right. I also see Don Capicelli on the line. You want to say hello, Don? And tell them who you are.
Hi, Don Capicelli from Athens. I'm on the advisory commission.
And for Athens. And I see, I think, who else do we have? Cindy's iPhone. I'm not sure who that is. No, perhaps she's remaining shy for the moment. Melissa is on the line. Sorry, Melissa, I didn't see you until just now. I want to say hello. And
Sure, I'm Melissa Karlstrom and I live in Westminster and I'm on the school board.
As she is indeed. All right, who have I failed to mention here? Nicole Barnett is recording for us tonight, presumably. And Lynn Carey, are you on, or are you?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Hello.
And tell them who you are. They might not know, Ann.
I am the Assistant Superintendent of the Union District and the Wyndham Northeast Supervisory Union as well.
All right. I think I've covered everybody. If anyone has not been addressed, let me or let Chris Pratt know. Our number 3 now is communication and public comment. Do we have anyone that wishes to make comments this evening? Do you have anything in the I don't even know what it's called,
Chat room.
the chat room? Thank you.
No, there's
No,
nothing.
All
Nothing.
right. Then without objection, I'm going to move to 5, which is the fiscal year FY21 budget. And who is doing the presenting of this evening?
Well, I think we'll keep it like we have been for the rest of the other board meetings, is that Flora can just give you an overall of the budget and what we're looking at. And the board could ask administration any questions they have in regards to the budget or what's changed since the last time you've seen the budget. So I would hand it over to Flora. She's got the screen shared for all of you to see. So I'll let her begin.
So since the last time we met for the budget, we actually updated assessments for the SU. So
Right.
that the change that we're going to see in the budget. Some of the miscellaneous for the schools were adjusted, but that's the only adjustments and changes that we had. I did spoke to the principals, but at this point, I guess they didn't have any other things to adjust or change from each of their budgets.
All right. Well, why don't you do the sort of walkthrough of the numbers in the bottom line and the things that have pushed budgets down or up one way or the other. I see one budget has, well, actually, these are numbers a little different than I thought I'd see tonight, but why don't we walk through them anyway?
So we do have the salaries changes from FY21 to FY22, as well as benefits. As mentioned before, we did have benefits increases. So that's not a line that we have control over. The benefits that went up at least at 7.5%, according to whatever every individual is enrolled in. And then the miscellaneous lines, we did adjust some of the extra expenses that we have for COVID to try to level fund that as much as we could. And then we do have the assessments. I did have it split between each of the schools. But as well, I do have the overall information, the bottom for both of the schools together.
Now, when you refer to the term assessments, you were talking about the assessments from the right, from the SU, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now there are. I know that the SU budget has obviously dropped in significantly, although it looks like the assessments did not, or at least didn't for both communities, or is that, how, help me out here.
So the overall assessment for the schools, that went down 33,134.
Yeah.
So we do the assessments according to volume of students. That's how we do the calculation.
All right. So are we assuming that if you go back to the breakout of the two schools, the Athens Grafton and the Westminster,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so your assessment is says there's a small decline we're projecting for next year for Westminster, and a small, actually not that small, proportionately increase for Grafton. Is that correct? Grafton Athens, is that correct?
Yes.
So do we have, what kind of numbers are we looking at for the two schools that are prompting that, if you don't mind?
Assessment wise?
Yeah, I mean, these are based on population. So we're assuming the population is going to drop marginally in Westminster and go up by roughly 10% in Athens Grafton. Is that?
Yes. So the increases that you see is transportation compared to the previous year. And then food service. Those are the two lines that have the significant increases.
All right. I'm going to do a round robin, and really I encourage folks to ask any questions they want, both in terms of the breakout of these lines, ask about drivers for costs, whatever it is you feel you need to ask about, let's get it on the record so we don't have to do it later in discussions for our meetings that are coming up next month. Why don't we start with you, Jessa? Any questions at this point?
Just wondering if the transportation increase is just due to increased costs for the same level of service, or have we needed additional services?
So for transportation is just the needed of improving the buses, any different in their staffing. I know they did different cameras as well. We did merge the transportation and special ed transportation together. So it is as well the transportation of the special ed students.
Yeah, because last year the special ed transportation and the regular ed transportation were separated. So Jessa, what you're seeing here is you're taking the two and that we put them together under just transportation now. So it'll look like an increase, but it's really collapsing two line items into one, if that helps.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Why don't I ask, how about you, Cheryl?
Okay, Anna, thank you. I've got actually several questions. For the first question, and so Jack, please know I have a series of questions.
I assume you would, actually.
All right. For the first question is I don't understand the reason that the budget that you sent out today for our discussion tonight is different than the one you sent out 2 days ago. This is budget reduced from the one 2 days ago. So if you could respond to that first, and then I'll go into some additional questions.
Yes, so with principals didn't have any significant reductions. So what I did was any extra COVID expenses that we had, I tried to adjust those ones. So we didn't have like an over amount for COVID supplies and things like that. So that was the little reduction, which is not a big reduction still, because still with the reduction in the COVID expenses, still the miscellaneous line is not level funded.
So I'll make a comment that 2 days ago, the overall Union School District budget proposed was $7,014,942, and tonight it's $6,954,684. So there is that difference there. But another question, and I don't know, this is maybe bookkeeping something, but the fiscal year 21 figures in the two budgets from 2 days ago and from today, fiscal year 21 is reduced. I don't understand that. That should have been a given, that we're comparing a year ago to the proposed for 22. So please explain why those numbers have changed.
So for the fiscal year 21, what I did was we did have issues with e-finance that it was showing summer pays. So I did try to update the system so your budget wouldn't see, you guys wouldn't see that difference that we have still in the finance system, because in the other budgets that we presented last night for Rockingham, that's what was one of the things that they brought up, was the fact, that the budget that was approved, that line wasn't showing the same amount that we had in this budget. So they didn't want to see those summer costs that are still rolling in our system. So I did try to update that. So what you see was the same amount that was approved last year.
So you're saying, go ahead, Jack, please, if you would.
Yeah, if you don't mind, we had this exact problem last year. And I remember there were e-finance artifacts because the thing kicked out numbers that were at variance with the approved budgets of the prior year. And it's the same, it looks exactly like the same kind of error. I'm not quite, I think some of it was summer program related, but I remember that this was an issue, and I'm not clear on completely why, but I do, this is a consistent a difficulty, and I do think it's an e-finance artifact to some extent. I'll get off and let Flora tell me why I'm wrong.
No, you're not wrong. So for some reason, eFinance does the encumbrances of salaries that were paid throughout the summer and benefits, and is rolling it to the current for the FY21 numbers. So that makes that your bottom line, it doesn't show what you guys approved. And that was one of the issues that we've been having with the other budgets. Everybody is like, okay, this does not seem like the amount that was approved.
Right.
So the difference that so Cheryl, the difference that you're seeing why those numbers are different than last time is that the numbers that you saw in this budget reflected those carryovers that shouldn't have been carried over from 19 into 21. And so what Flora did, she went in by hand and took out that difference. So you're seeing the actual different numbers here that were approved rather than the numbers that eFinance was spitting out, including some line items that shouldn't have been included.
This is something that actually, Flora, you need to talk to those guys about, because it's been a problem ever since we put in eFinance and ever since we've been running summer pre-K programs.
So we do have a ticket open with them. Right now, they don't know how to fix this issue.
No shot there.
They are actually trying to see which one will be the best approach for us to follow. But honestly, if this is an issue that they're not going to be able to fix for us, we will have to go manually into each of the employees that work summer and do those journal entries and adjustments. But we're waiting on them.
This is something that happens at every school that they're planning on servicing. So, and they've been aware of it for more than a year. So it'd be really nice if they actually did something.
Jack,
Cheryl,
okay,
I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Yep, thanks. No, this is all very helpful. Thank you. Thanks to Chris and Flora and you as well. So now looking just a little bit more globally at the budget overall, Westminster's increases, I mean, because we do, I'll say this for the public, whereas this is a consolidated budget for the Unified School District, our wonderful fiscal team also makes it possible for us to see charges allocated against the Westminster School Building and those against the Athens Grafton School Building, which is incredibly helpful. I'm seeing increases in salaries and benefits for Westminster, but slight reductions in the miscellaneous and reduction actually in assessments that I think Flora can speak to in just a moment. I'm seeing an increase in all categories for Athens and Grafton, and I guess I would predict that's based on what Flora said a few moments ago, a slight decrease in the number of students in Westminster and an increase in the number of students in Athens and Grafton. So let me ask for comments about what I just said.
Yes, so the changes is according to the volume of students in the calculations. That's how you will see how we assess each of the schools. Honestly, I just split it so you guys had a better view over it. But when we do the assessment, we don't really pull it separately from each of the schools. We do the overall assess.
I'm just seeing a reduction in the assessment attributed to Westminster, but overall, what you just said. I mean, let's go back for those who didn't hear this discussion before. When both of the principals presented the parts of the budget that they worked on specifically, we're basically looking at level budgets. We're trying to retain the level of services to the children with approximately the same number of kids, the same number of teachers, and the same commitment to curricular quality. So there are no big changes. What we're seeing are some increases related to simply building in for salaries and benefits, but there are no big changes in this budget. And the principals have worked very hard to try to reduce where they could any of the incidental expenses, and that's been done. So I think with agreement about those general comments I just made, I think I'm fine. Thank you.
Yeah, and Cheryl, if you, I can give the public or anyone listening, because we base it on the ADM count for students at the beginning of the year. So I was just calling it up. And so for, let's see, I don't have last year's numbers, but currently for Westminster, you have, including pre-K, 182. Without pre-K, it's 150. And then in Grafton, Athens Grafton, including pre-K, there's 53 students, and excluding pre-K, there's 49. So, like I said, these numbers, keep in mind, these are the numbers we get at I think it's October. And if there's any increase in our enrollment or decrease, we don't see it to the following year, even though the count might be up or down. So if this is just general knowledge for the public to understand, it's not, these numbers are set for the year, even if there is an increase or a decrease in enrollment.
Right. Thank you. And then, just a question. I think that both of the principals are comfortable with this if they have offered their recommendations for the budget, and I think still stand by them. But I'd love to hear an affirmation of that.
Yeah, I think that this budget presents, like you said, Cheryl, continuing with the quality of education and the level of services that we're able to provide, but really leveling where we could and reducing where we could. And I feel pretty confident with this budget for this
Thank
one.
you.
Yeah, and I concur the same with Liz, that we've tried very hard to keep the services going that are already in place, but wanting to appreciate that this is a tough year to increase any budgets, and our taxpayers are already burdened with so much that it's not a year to grow our services or our programs.
Thank you both. I'm through with questions, Jack. Thanks so much.
All right. I'm going to ask Lynn Morgan if she has any questions.
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Well, we'll come back to you, Lynn, because I often know that you have them towards the end, and they're usually good ones. Melissa.
I also don't have any questions.
All right. See, who have I not asked? Somebody yell at me if I forget someone. Let me just ask too, while the folks are thinking about this. Let's start with the salary lines that we have here look like they are up by what, 2.5%, and that's presumably built around some contingency stuff, or what are we looking at there? Help me out.
Yeah, you're in the ballpark there, Jack, in regards to contingency. Correct.
All right. The second question, and as I may have noted to those who weren't there the other night at the SU meeting, it's really important for school districts, at least by law, not to deficit spend. So if you think there's a chance that you're going to spend money, you have to provide for it. You can't do wishful thinking and then get surprised, because that's essentially intentionally running a deficit, and people like Brad James yell at you when you do that. The other item I think people are going to want to know, and I don't know if either of you got the numbers for this, is do we have any sense as to the cost per student based on the whatever it's called, the adjusted student count or whatever? I can never remember that acronym, and I've been doing this for close to 20 years. Chris, you're speaking into a dead mic.
Are you referring to the breakdown of the average daily memberships for each school?
Yeah, and the adjusted adjusted student count, whatever it's called.
I know we've Flora in the office has been starting to work on that. I don't know if we have them all in, but so.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because one of the things I have on the agenda tonight, assuming we pass this budget, is whether or not we're going to be in a position to get a warning done tonight, if we're going to have to wait till next meeting, because I think that we have to put into that warning the dollar per adjusted student. And so I didn't know if this meant that maybe we don't have that material and can't do the warning tonight? And we can do the report, but we might not be able to do the warning.
Yeah, I think, I know, Flora, is this school board one of the ones that we've been working on in regards to the one tax sheet that breaks down the student count and everything?
No, that was Rockingham that asked for that, but we are working on the announced tuition data collection report for the state, which it just gives you the cost per pupil and everything. I did get some of the information from the principals, as you know, the current volume of students that they have, so we could just complete the reports. But we should have it finalized tomorrow. I'll be working on that so I can submit it before the 15th to the state.
Yeah, it won't help us to get a warning out tonight, which I kind of wanted to get that piece in if we could, but life is like that. We can still warn the part about the approval tonight, so that's fine.
Yeah, we can get the language down and just plug those numbers in like we have in the past in regards to what it breaks out to be per student.
Okay, but when we sign the papers, we have to have all that on the paper, so that's the reason why I'm asking about it. Okay, well, that is just what it is, and we'll try to get that. I may call you all for a 5-minute meeting in the next before the 15th, just to get that all tacked down, guys. But because I think there's a drop dead date that both Athens and Grafton have. Frankly, Rockingham has it too, though it never seems to come up for them. So we'll just bear that in mind. So our bottom line budget that we need to approve tonight is, what is the number, for? What's the total? Do I see a 6,954, 684?
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
All right. Are there, I'm going to go back to Lynn Morgan. Any questions I haven't asked that you'd like to ask, or would you like to ask something I hadn't thought of?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. And how about you, Melissa?
No questions.
All right. Jessa, anything else?
No, thanks.
All right. So I'm going to entertain a motion to approve a budget of 6,954, 684, and presumably no cents. Anybody want to make that motion for me?
Sure, this is Cheryl. I so move.
All right. This is a small board, but it doesn't normally need a second, but I like seconds. Anybody want to second it? Excellent. Thank you, Melissa. Any further discussion? Is anyone, this is the forever hold your peace part. Then I'm going to call the question and do a roll call. Melissa, I can see your screen and the mountain behind you. What say you?
I approve the budget.
Cheryl?
Yes, approve.
Jessa?
Yes.
All right. Lynn?
Yes.
All right. So we have, did I miss anybody? Okay, so I guess we've got everybody. So the budget is approved. Chris, can you go back to our, thank you, by the way, for for all of you guys. Thank you for breaking it out. Thank you for making this one of the shorter budget meetings in history. And why don't we move on to the issue about with the warning item about withdrawal. Let me say this about that. I've had conversations with Will Senning today and yesterday, had conversations with Pietro, or Pietro's number 2 there, about language. And what we are proposing to do is to have language that says, in the event that the vote by the town of Westminster to withdraw is certified by the Secretary of State, do you approve. And that would be, the goal here is to place that on as part of the overall warning item of this body, but it will also have to be a warning item on the 2 towns. And I need to get that taken care of probably the next day or so. And what I would like us to do is when we do the warning where we sign it and all that, which we'll have to do in the next few days, that what I may do is simply call you all in and put that on. I need to say that the warning also will, because it will be an Australian ballot, we'll also have to include those people who would like to run for office. And they would also, if you have other items you would like to have on the warning and would like them to be discussed, please let me know in the next day or 2, if at all possible, so that we can get them onto a warning, so we can vote on that warning item. It will include the budget item we just approved, and we can send it off. It'll probably be either on or before the 14th. I've got to check with the 2 towns and confirm I actually know what I'm talking about with Pietro one more time before I say yes on this. Is that okay with you all? You don't look enthusiastic.
Jack, could you explain? You're talking about multiple things at once here. So one is a set of issues around Athens and Grafton holding a vote to ratify or not Westminster's vote to withdraw. But you're also talking about a warning for each of the town meetings, or actually typically the meeting of the 3 towns together, but to approve this budget. And you're saying there's also a need to warn or to have on the ballot names of candidates who are willing to run or whose terms would be expiring. How do you deal with the part of that has to do with?
That will probably be a separate ballot item. And so people will, I think they will have till the 23rd of this month to get that in. The part that we have to deal with is the, actually, all of it will be the 23rd. I'm thinking about the moderator and all the rest, all those district officers, meeting officers for the meeting that we're not having. So what you will see, as I understand it, is we will have these as, there will be a Grafton ballot. They'll have Grafton issues and have our stuff on it. There'll be an Athens ballot. They'll have our stuff on it. There will be a Westminster ballot that will have everything but the approval items on it. So they won't have, since you've already done your vote. You don't have to approve your own vote. So that's how it would be structured. At least that's how I have it today. You know, this could change tomorrow, but that's my understanding of how this will be done. So each town will have Grafton and Athens will have ballots that include their town items and these school items. Westminster will have their ballot that'll have the school items excepting the one about withdrawal, and that's how it will look. And I've already got a mock-up that I'm going to show Kim Record. Now, hopefully she won't hate it too much tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I just ran out of time. Yeah. Gwen.
So getting names for new board members.
Yeah.
That is going on this.
That we don't have to. We just have to say, shall they elect the following? And we don't have to say who they are as part of our, but they will need to be registered because they have to appear on the ballot. They don't have to appear on the warning.
Okay.
Well, that's an important distinction right now. You're talking about getting the language for the warning. You're not
Right.
talking about getting the, so help us
Right.
with that. I mean, this is,
It will say,
okay.
shall you be elected using the fancy protocol that we're still under? Because we'll still be under it this coming year.
Okay.
So that's, the business where all towns will pick 2 from each town, all that stuff.
Yeah, okay.
And the reason I'm saying that if there are other items that people want to put on the warning, let me know. I remember there was some discussion in a meeting before COVID hit in Westminster about whether, for example, we should modify the Articles of Agreement to add more Westminster representatives. That was something that was brought up a couple of times. Just let me know if people want that or anything else onto this thing, so that we reflect any sentiment that's out there, or if somebody's got a pet project, they want a building named after themselves or something, we can take care of that. So there you go. Is that as clear as mud?
I see Jess's hand is up and I'm not sure.
Yeah, Jess, I'm sorry. I can't see everybody on this stupid system. So
Yes,
Jessa,
my hand is up.
oh, there we go. Now I can see everybody.
Withdrawal support motion,
Yep.
isn't that part of the town portion of the warning, or is it part of the school district portion of the warning?
Funny you should ask.
Because I'm confused.
121. Well, good, because that makes you one of everybody in America. The original document, 121, when it was written in large part under the assumption that we were talking about town districts withdrawing from a high school unified district. Now, in our environment, of course, we don't have town districts anymore. One of the legal questions that we are going to hit with the Board of Education or with the AOE is whether or not the proper entity has warned and voted on the meeting. The response that I've been advised on by Will and by Pietro's people is to have the item co-warned by both this district and the individual towns, so that whatever the argument is as to whether or not the appropriate folks have warned the item, they have warned the item. Everybody that could possibly have warned the item has warned the item, and we can move on. So that's what we're trying to do. It's a little weird, but that's why I wanted this all done on town meeting day, and why I want these on, essentially a combined ballot for all 3 towns, is we want to finesse this completely and say, whatever your objection is, we've answered it. Have a nice day.
So will that language be voted on by this board?
That language, one of the things I would want to do is have that language voted on by this board when we do the warning. And I would also assume that the 2 town select boards will do the same. And I want to give, since in many ways it's probably the towns that have first dibs on this, I want them to be mutually comfortable with it. And that's why I asked Dawn and Hardy if they drop in tonight, so that they would know what their marching orders were, and I will give them a hand. And I've CC'd them on the correspondence with Pietro today, just to make sure we're all on the same page. And my hope is that we will get them to approve the language, and then I'm going to walk it to you guys to approve it, and put it on our warning as well.
So would a proposal for a change of the language go to this board when we vote on that language, or to the select board?
If you've got language you like, I'm going to take the language that Pietro and I work out and walk it to all three boards and hope for an up or down vote. If you want to help with crafting the language, and it sounds like you do, you will have that opportunity in probably an hour.
Okay, yes, I will, because I believe the framing of it should be the dissolution of the district based on the
I
votes
can't,
of one or
and
more
let
towns.
me walk you back on this, because this is important. If we bring this as a dissolution, then we have to have yet another set of votes and have all three towns vote to have all three towns, to approve all three towns dissolving it. The language of 121 does not provide for the dissolution of a district, only the withdrawal of members from it. And one of the reasons why we have jumped through these funky hoops is because if we say we want to dissolve the district, we are violating straight up Act 46. If Westminster withdraws, we are not even we are saying that Act 46 doesn't matter. Act 121 applies and gives them that right. In a future date, it may well be, maybe next year, especially if all this goes through, maybe we have the conversation about Athens withdrawing or Grafton withdrawing. Only one town should then withdraw. That's a discussion a year from now, once the legal issue, can a town do this, has been decided. That issue hasn't been broached.
I think the simultaneous withdrawal is more prudent now that there's been chatter that the legislature is going to shut the door of towns withdrawing before we can get around to it next year, if we choose to do that.
If we do that, we are also going to push our date out such that it'll be a moot question for anybody to get out. And that's the concern I've had right along. I also, the bit of discussion I've had informally with the SBE people is they're prepared to shoot down anything that looks like a dissolution pretty straightforward. But that the withdrawal issue is something they could do. And Athens and Grafton have been almost 20 years working as a functional district. In any case, the only real difference in our relationship in the joint board and a unified board is that it's a single taxing authority as opposed to three taxing authorities. Over half of our budget when we were joint district was actually in that unified entity, which was in effect a single taxing authority. It really doesn't buy you a ton to have that, to have that fight. I think we can have this discussion and probably will have it at both the Athens and Grafton boards. I got to tell you, I think it's 50-50 at best that even Westminster is going to be allowed to withdraw. I really think that we're shaving our odds down to something fairly symbolic if all three towns do it. And I also know that it's one thing to ask our SU to handle what has effectively been run as two separate districts anyway. And it's another thing to have them have to do a picky through a very tiny school building and try to allocate those costs. It used to take more time to do our finances than it did the rest of the supervisory union combined. And Chris has been very kind about, not screaming bloody murder about what we're doing. If I were him, I'd be starting to scream if we separated them out. I mean, I'm willing to have a deeper conversation both with the with the towns and with this board. Chris, I think if your hand up, am I chatting without? Okay. So that's my view. I know, you know, I know this is going to not be, this is going to feel very much a half a loaf, but I think it's the loaf we got our best shot at getting. And it's the reason I've been driving it in this direction for months, because I just don't think something that looks like a dissolution is going to fly and isn't going to be immediately the reason that the legislature tries to cut us all off.
Jack.
Long answer. Yeah. Lynn, go ahead.
It seems to me that for years we've been talking about unifying Grafton and Athens to cut the cost. And
right.
If Westminster just withdraws from the union, that leaves Athens and Grafton as a union, and we don't have to fight that battle to try to figure out how to unionize it. So it makes sense to me that in this case, we don't want to do a three-way dissolving. Well,
that was part of it. It's also really, I mean, if you were there and Cheryl was there, I can't remember, Jess, if you came to the fun and games at the SBE or not, but and correct me if I'm misremembering this, but it really became very clear in the conversations we had with those people that really Westminster was collateral damage in the SBE's eagerness to force Grafton and Athens to unify. That they were adamant about us. The state, the AOE, was also representing to the State Board of Education that we were doing it, but we were dawdling, but that we were doing it. And the state board simply just got impatient with the whole thing and smashed us all together because they didn't think we were serious. So I think that, as I say, I don't want to do something that I consider a John Carroll trigger. And you know, I'm trying to persuade him this is a good idea. And you know, did half a loaf, full loaf. I think this is a conversation we should have at the select board, because they may say they're not in favor of doing this and don't want. I don't think they have to, candidly, do a confirmation vote. They may very well want to do the divvy up. I'll have the same argument with them that I've had tonight, but they might agree with you. I don't know. Hope not.
I guess we'll talk to them then.
All right. All right. Well, with that, is there any further business before this August body? Director's comments? Any? Cheryl?
Thanks again to Flora and Chris and Lynn and the whole team, Helen and Liz, for all this good work on the budget. I mean, and this is important and thoughtful, and thank you all very much.
Lynn Morgan?
Ditto on what Cheryl said. Just thank you so much for all the hard work you guys are putting in.
Melissa?
It's the same. Thanks, guys.
Jessa?
No, other than a thank you to the administration and Flora specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And let me just cap this by saying, again, thank you all. You know, whether or not this is a consolidated district next year or two districts next year, it has been a pleasure working with you all. Flora, I'm going to look forward to the equalized student count. I think that's the term I was looking for earlier, so we can get that smashed into the warning. And I will try to be merciful. We'll have a very short chat when we do the warning, unless we haven't worked out this business of it, whether we're doing the Westminster thing or a complete breakup. So more on that when we get to it. Thank you all. Good
Working
night.
on it already, Jack.
Huh?
I said I'm working on
You
it
got it
already.
already? All right. Well, that's the spirit by thunder. All right. Chris, I see your hand up.
Yeah, Jack, can you
Or
hang
is that
around after
Keith?
the meeting? Can you hang around
Sure
after the
can.
meeting, Jack, so I just want to talk to you about something.
Sure can.
Thank
Well,
you.
everybody else, you get to go home.
Thank
If
you.
we are home.
Good
Good
night.
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 Thank you.
Oh God, you've just been looking at the top of my head all night. Anyway, yeah. Fact TV, it's your time to turn off. Can you close them out for us, Chris?